Hello and welcome to another edition of the Wayne Room podcast, where today it's just the two of us with myself and Paul Callaghan running through the 9 live races on ITV Racing across Saturday, with 5 events from Ayr Gold Cup meeting and also 4 from Newbury, with 2 lots of group action to go through on the card. Paul, bit under the weather last week. Glad to see you feeling better this week.
Absolutely, James. I wasn't in good fettle at all last week. Delayed declaring myself a non-runner as late as possible, but picked up an infection. To cut a long story short, it was the last podcast I recorded this day 2 weeks ago. I would have had it then. I was in a fair bit of pain and discomfort. That lasted from Friday to Sunday. Knew I was in a bit of bother on Sunday. Had a bit of spice. My club team, Gaelic football team, Meath Hill, were playing in the quarter final of the Intermediate Championship. They were playing on the Sunday, so I was trying to delay my run to the hospital as late as possible. I kind of knew I was going to be kept in, and I wanted to see Meath Hill play, and that didn't improve matters. We were beaten by a point, and then Ireland played Netherlands then that evening, of course, and that result didn't help either. So was feeling pretty under the weather. Ended up in hospital, and yeah, thankfully it's all cleared up now.
Yeah, good to see you back to full strength. And we need you this week because it looks very, very tricky 9 races we're going to go through here. And last time you were on the pod, you landed a lovely nap with Ailsa Kib.
Yeah, we didn't have a bad weekend. The last weekend I was on, and of course we welcome back Dundalk on Friday evening. So looking forward to that.
Exactly. That's what we love hearing at the end of the pod about Dundalk. Anyway, though, we're going to kick off this week's podcast from Ayr with the 1:15 on Saturday. It's the Virgin Bet Daily Price Boost handicap over a mile. A lot of familiar faces go to post here, Paul. We've seen them a lot this season in these similar handicaps. Who are you going for to kick us off?
I've gone with the Diane Sayre train Redarna as a bit of a fun bet. He's very exposed, but he comes in here in a bit of decent form. He was a good winner at Carlisle last time out. He ran well to finish 4th in this race last year off handicap mark 94. He's lining up here of 90. And I think the fact that he's coming in here on the back of a win on his best form, he should be there or thereabouts. He was a good winner over the stiff 7 furlongs at Carlisle when last seen. He was as big as 12 to 1 yesterday afternoon, now as big as 9 to 1. And people ran a turn teaming up here with Diane Sayre. Redarna gets a tentative nod in the opener, our opener, the 1:15 at Ayr.
Yeah, Radana absolutely loved the track. Wealth of experience as well. Could get the job done. Look, it's one of them races where you can make a case for loads, but you could also make a case against him as well. Revic is a horse I like, especially at Chester. I know he's a course and distance winner here as well. But the one I've gone with is Tyson Rock for John Quinn, who's been in a bit of form over the last few weeks. Reaching a mark of 93 last season, it saw him in the handicappers grasp a bit Titan Rock, and it was a mission to get him back down really to a more workable mark. And I think 85 sees him on that. He started this year off higher marks, like I mentioned, running to the same standard of the last term. He finally dropped to a mark of 83 and got back to winning ways at Wolverhampton, up £2 for that run at York in May. He finished the next second in a really competitive handicap of 20 runners, and that saw him creep back up the handicap slightly up to a mark of 87. He put in 2 below par runs, but back down to 85 last time out. He put up a much better run and second to Persuasion at Thirsk in a Class 2 event. He runs off the same mark here, and getting back to a track at Ayr where he's won at before off a £5 higher mark. I just thought Titan Rock, with how John Quinn and Jason Hart are going at the moment, could get the job done at around 11 to 2. But it's a very tricky handicap to start. Another tricky race we're going to look at is Newbury next, and it's the first group event of the day, the 1:30 Group 3 Dubai International World Trophy over 5 furlongs. At the top of the market, we see Sense of Duty back after 455 days for William Haggas and Tom Marquand. Russell, who seems to run every week at this point, at 3 to 1. Nymphadora for the same connections of Sense of Duty at 5s. Thunder Bear at 9s, and Designer at 11s. Paul, obviously, Sense of Duty here at the top of the market, 11 to 8. Really interesting to see the filly back because she had the world at her feet, went before she had a setback and been off the track. My only worry with this horse, will she handle the heavy ground, having not raced on anything better than good? What was your opinion on the race?
Yeah, and if the ground's heavy at the minute, that's obviously going to test her fitness as well, James. I think if she handles it and she's fit, I think she wins. I think she will take the beating. She's 4 victories from 5 starts. She hasn't looked back since finishing second at Newmarket on debut. She's progressed with each run. She won a listed event 2 starts ago, and then was a winner of a Group 3 on the all-weather at Newcastle when last seen. As you mentioned, that was quite some time ago. That was June 2022 when we last seen Sense of Duty. Fitness and ground pose obvious question marks. Maybe not a race at 11 to 8 you'd be weighing in it, but if she's fit and handles conditions, Sense of Duty is the one that they'll have to catch.
Yeah, I really wanted to put up Sense of Duty because I love this horse before she got injured. But for a horse at 11 to 8, when you've been off 455 days and never been seen on heavy, soft ground, I just thought I might take a stab at another one at a bigger price. And I could come back to kick myself because Sense of Duty, we haven't seen her on this ground. She could handle it no problem. The way she's ran before, she's obviously a very, very talented horse. Razel is a horse that just keeps running really, really well in these sorts of races. Always pretty much small fields, but can chuck in the odd bad blip. So the one I went for was Nymphadora for the same connections as Sense of Duty. I thought it was strange they're running both. I honestly thought that Sense of Duty might be pulled out closer to the off just because of the ground. I thought they would want the good ground. Where Nymphadora, the ground is absolutely set up for her because her best runs come on soft testing with anything with soft in the description. So seen 3 times last term. She was second at Chester to the Nunthorpe winner, Living the Dream. She then went to Royal Ascot and finished a superb second in the 27 runner Palace of Holyroyd House. And she finished last term in the Group 3 Coral Charge. She was back in 5th, but she was actually only 2 lengths behind the winner. That was Razel that day. And again, she was only seen 3 times. So she's been seen more frequently this term, and her best runs have come on soft ground. She needed her first start at Bath. Set her up perfectly for a run at Chester, where she landed a Class 2 handicap over 5 furlongs on soft ground in good style off a mark of 97. Sent to air in a listed filly stakes on good ground. She was a good third behind the likes of Makarova and Royal Acclaim. Fourth, she was a good fourth, sorry. She then got back to winning ways at York. She saw off Silky Wilkie by nearly 2 lengths, a horse you like, Paul. That was on good to soft ground, again with soft in description. Underperforming on both her runs at Glorious Goodwood in the Group 2 King George Qatar Stakes and York's Eborn meeting in the Nunthorpe. Those races are just far too good for her. She's been dropped back here into a Group 3 that if you took Sense of Duty out would be very, very weak. I just think Nymphadora getting her ground has a big chance at 5 to 1. So I'll make the case for her in that one. Back over to Airpool for the next event, and it's the 150 Virgin Bet Daily Extra Places listed Doonside Cup over 1 mile 2 furlongs. And I know me and you had a bit of a scramble before we started this pod because we looked this morning and we were both on My Prospero, but he's now a non-runner. And at the top of the market, we now see Royal Rhyme, a Glorious Goodwood winner, at 7 to 4. Back in second favourite, Pride of America, 100 to 30. Helvic Dream for Noel Mead, 11 to 2. Bateman's Bay, 17 to 2, and 10 to 1, bigger the rest. I thought it was a penalty kick for My Prospero, even though he's made hard work of his runs this year. But Royal Rhyme probably would have chased him home. So from that point of view, I probably think Royal Rhyme will go and win this. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, you'd imagine so. Royal Rhyme himself has gone up in grade, having contested handicap events on his last few starts. He's won 2 from 3, all on with soft in the description. And yeah, I think with official going at air at the moment is good to soft. I think if soft remains in the description, Royal Rhyme is the one that they'll have to catch here. I'd be shocked if he went off as big as 7 to 4.
Yeah, I'm of exactly the same opinion. I think this is a very, very weak Doonside Cup. You've seen horses like a Dave win this, Royal Champion won it last year. And obviously the same connections of Sugar Royal Rhyme in here. And to win that handicap the way it did, I know it was very, very testing ground at Goodwood last time out, but to win the way it did off a marker 95 suggested how much more he'd had left in the tank. And I like I said, I don't think this is a very good listed race. So to eke him up just into this class, I think is very, very clever. Now My Prospero's gone out the race. So yeah, for all the reasons you said, same connections won it last year. I don't think it's a very good race. I think Royal Rhyme will take all the beating now in the listed Doonside Cup. Right, next up at Newbury, 205 Dubai Duty Free Autumn Cup handicap, Paul. This sees a few runners that some we know lots about, some we don't know too much about. Valsad at the top of the market, 5-2. Sea King at 5s. Larfy at 5-1. Salt Bay at 13-2. One for the gutter 7s. Not So Sleepy, the old 11-year-old in there at 17-2. And Get Shirty at 12s. There's interesting runners, but there's also runners in here we know lots about. What was your opinion on the race?
Sea King gets the tentative nod here. Sea King needs to bounce back on his most recent effort. That was at Haydock, where he finished 11-14. Having said that, ran well for a long way and kind of ultimately, I don't think, stayed the mile and 6 trip. Was a good winner at Goodwood and second at Kempton before that run at Haydock. I think the small field here will suit Sea King, and I'd be happy to have a small fun bet on Sea King at 5-1.
Yep, so Mark Prescott, Shane Kelly taking the ride at 5s. So something I did in this race when looking at it that I never do, and I make a thing I never want to do it, but I wrote a horse down, started writing about it, and crossed it out and changed my mind because I was going to give a chance to Salt Bay for Rafe Beckett. And I started writing it, and I started looking through the other runners, and I thought, you know what? That's a big weight to give away, that is, for a horse that's not all that consistent. And then looking at Larfy for William Agus and Tom Marquand after the gelding operation, I could make a stronger case. So in the end, it came down on Laffy, whatever you want to call the horse. But he made his debut last term at Newmarket over 7 furlongs on good to soft ground. He bumped into the likes of Military Order, Empjar, Arabian Storm, that are good horses. Up to 8.5 furlongs at Nottingham on soft ground. He got off the mark in good fashion. Really staying on well towards the finish to suggest to me, and obviously to William Haggis, that the further he go, the better he'd be. Back as a 3-year-old this term, he stepped up to 1 mile 4 into a hot race again in the listed Linkfield Derby trial. But again, behind the likes of Military Order, Royal Ascot winner Wapiro and Circle of Fire, all nice horses. Tried again in the Golden Gates handicap at Royal Ascot, dropped to 1 mile 2 and below par. Didn't want the step down in trip, didn't want the good ground. And he hasn't been seen since June, but he's had a wind operation. He's been stepped markedly up in trip. His pedigree suggests he'll get it, no problem. The way he's ran suggests he'll get it. And he returns to softer conditions. I thought he had a lot going for him, Larfy. So, yeah, first run since a gelding operation. I think he had a lot of positives, and I'm going to stick him up at 5-1, same price as yours at Sea King. But you can see with the market how close he is. Apart from Valstad at the top of the market, who a lot of bookmakers are dodging, a lot of them are very closely knit in the market. So it's set up to be a competitive handicap. Talking of competitive handicaps, the next race we're going to cover at Ayr is the 225 Virgin Bet Ayr Silver Cup, the race for the horses that couldn't get into the Gold Cup, over 6 furlongs that go into here off lower handicap marks. Paul, this is always a fascinating race, a bit of a nightmare, really, isn't it? Because you can find a lot of value, but the 25 runners to try and pick the winner out of, who did you go for?
I went for a horse with a bit of form, bit of course form, and a jockey who I'm guessing would have had a choice to ride a number of these. And if that is the case, he's gone with Call Me Ginger, who's best priced at 12-1. Call Me Ginger won the Bronze Cup back in 2021. Comes here in pretty decent form, having won 2 of his last 3 starts. He finished 8-22 when last seen. That was running in the Portland Handicap at Doncaster last Saturday. He was only beaten 4 3/4 lengths by the winner. He does like to come from off the pace, so we'll be hoping for the gaps to open. But I think at 12-1, I'd be happy to get involved with Call Me Ginger.
Yeah, Call Me Ginger was obviously racing in the Portland Handicap, last time at Doncaster, looking to win the race for a second year, and was in really good form before that. So if he can bounce back slightly over a course and distance he's won out before, 12-1 is a decent price. 25 runners, Paul, I played 2 here, both each way. One near the top of the market, one near the bottom of the market. So bit differing odds. But the first one's Rathbone at 15-2. And I know he's at the top of the market here, but I can see why. Because I think this horse, you need to strike where the iron's hot. And when he's winning races, you need to keep going with him until he finally loses, and then he falls off the boil and comes back at the same time next year off the lower handicap mark. I don't think his handicap mark of 82 is beyond him here. So I think he can go close. He's had a resurgence in form, hasn't he, lately, dropping to a mark of 77, having been massively below par before that. He got back to winning ways at Sandown over 5 furlongs and Bolton up in a Class 4 handicap, up to a mark of 84 for that win. He stepped back up to 6 furlongs, this time on soft ground. He made it 2 wins on the bounce when seeing off rival Jump the Gun, who's in here 8-1, third favourite. And he beat Jump the Gun by a neck under a really good ride by Conor Panis, who didn't have his claim that day. He was giving away £9 to the winner that day. So he's now running off £2 lower, with Panis taking off that further £3. So he's essentially racing off a mark of 79, having raced off 84 last time. I just think it makes him really interesting, Rathrow, and I think he's still well handicapped. And I just think he's got a very, very big chance. Still 16 is quite nice as well. So I can see why the case can be made for him, and I can see why he's at the top of the market. One at a much bigger price, around 25s or 33s yesterday, is Admiral D for Richard Fahey. And this horse needs to bounce back on Saturday in a big way. But Richard Fahey in these sprint events does find his horses running very, very well. A horse last year that was performing well in competitive handicaps, off marks in the mid-90s. This term has been tried between 6 furlongs and 7 furlongs, has not performed to the same level. Last seen at Pontefract, though, off a mark of 86, he looked to be getting back to somewhere near his best, only 3 lengths back in 6th in a Class 3 handicap. Been dropped a further pound for that, for this run on Saturday. He now runs off a career low British mark of 85, and I just thought he could see him get involved. He would need to bounce back, but you know with Richard Fahey that he can get him going in these sprint events. Stall 4 wouldn't be ideal, I don't think, but he's got no problem. He can overcome it. It's not the worst draw in the world, but thought a big price with that extra place on offer. Admiral D can nick a place, but Rathbone I thought was solid at the top of the market. Another tricky handicap we're going to have a look at then, this time from Newbury, is the 240 Dubai duty-free handicap over 1 mile, 2 furlongs. Paul, kick us off in this one. Who have you gone for?
I am all over Tottenham here, James, who has yet to run a bad race at 9 starts. She's won 4, including that 4 victories, 2 of which include her last 2 runs. She won a good handicap at Chelmsford under Oisin Murphy in July. It then was a good winner of a competitive handicap that was in the Racing League at Chepstow under Paul Mulrennan when last seen in August. She's gone up in grade here. She will need to improve. However, she can race a little bit keen. I'm fairly sweet on Tottenham, but she can race a little bit keen. Hopefully, going up in grade, that will help her just to drop the bridle a bit and give her every chance of finishing the race. She was one that was jocked up quite early in the week, so it was obviously an intention from some way back that Tottenham was geared for this contest. She was as big as 7-1. She's now best price at 9-2. I'm with Tottenham here.
Yeah, I'm joining you. Tottenham for me as well. I think she's been very, very impressive of late, and it's almost like she hasn't run a bad race, but she hit a bit of a stumbling block about 3 or 4 runs ago, and then she kicked on again. And that would suggest to me that the way she raced in the Racing League last time at Chepstow, she just won so easy. And I thought the horses in behind her, it was quite a competitive race. That weren't that bad of horses. And she was up £7 for that win, wasn't she? When she won at Chepstow. That was good to soft ground. Obviously, it's probably going to be deeper here, but I don't think she'll. From the way Chepstow was, it looks softer than good to soft to me. So I'd hope she'd handle this. Yes, she's racing off a mark of 90 here, but I was with you. I thought there wasn't much in the field that can trouble her. Balance Play didn't handle soft ground last time out. Garci's a horse that if we'll win, I'll do my head in because I've put him up that many times.
Him up the last time, yeah.
Yeah, I put him up the last, I think, 3 times, twice, and he just hasn't run his race. He did stay on last time, though, and it's a smaller field, so I can't see the case, and it's won on soft before. But no, I'm going with Tottenham. I think she's a very, very progressive filly that's on an upward curve, and I thought the last run at Chepstow was a very, very, very good run. So, yeah, I'll be going, for all the reasons you said as well, I'll be going with Tottenham. One of the feature races of the afternoon from Ayr on Saturday is the Group 3 Firth of Clyde. A race that sees plenty of smart potential horses going to post. You have Rakia at the top of the market, 11-8. Great Generation at 9-2. Dorothy Lawrence, 15-2. Navassa Island, 15-2. Pretty Crystal, 17-2. And 22-1. Bigger the rest. Paul, a few horses in here, few youngsters that we've talked about a lot this season, really, with the likes of Navassa Island, Pretty Crystal. But the favourite 11-8, obviously, it's been well backed, really. Well, likely to be well backed. It's actually drifted out, from even money to 11-8. But I think it's likely to be well backed if with the Owen Burrows factor. He doesn't actually feel that many horses when they run. They normally run well. These colours against some lesser owners' silks in the race. What was your opinion?
Yeah, I think for that reason, like Rakia is obviously the one they'll have to beat, but I'd be happy at the prices. Great Generation, currently best price at 9-2. She's 2 from 2. And I thought she did well to win on debut at Haydock despite missing the break. And then she ran out. She was a good winner at Chester last time out. Like, she looks pretty decent. I think she's just overlooked here in the betting at 9-2. I'd be surprised if she went off as big as that now. I could see her shortening. Great Generation, but I just think 11-8. I think the favourite is short enough. I do think it's between the top two, but I do think Great Generation is overlooked here. So I'm going to side with Marco Bodi's Billy the Mount once again off Stefano Scherzi.
Yeah, I hope it's not out of the top two, Paul, because mine's the top two. I can understand your case with Rukia, because even though I think she could be the best horse in the race and turn out to be the best one of the lot, I thought 11-8 was quite small, and even looking before that was 10-11 even money. It was even shorter, but I can see people piling into it. I can see people, because of the silks, Owen Burrows, Jim Crowley, like the combination together. I can just see her getting backed, but that would leave a bit of value elsewhere, and that's why I went with Pretty Crystal for Richard Fye. I think Richard Fye could have a really good day at Ayr on Saturday. She's been seen 4 times to date, this filly. Made a very pleasing debut at Ripon when readily scoring over 6 furlongs. Looking more comfortable the further she went. Really, the penny dropping late on. Sent to Royal Ascot in the Group 3 Group 3 Albany Stakes. She ran a cracker, finishing a solid 5th of 17 behind the likes of Porta Fortuna, Matrika, Soprano, and Persian Dreamer. Have all turned out to be nice horses. She was put into another classic Group 3 over the same course and distance, where she finished a better second, having to chase home the runaway winner, Sacred Angel, who was a good winner that day. But I thought Pretty Crystal showed a really good attitude to see off Symbology for second that day, dropping back to 6, last seen up 7 furlongs on soft ground at Goodwood in the Group 3 Prestige Filly Stakes. She finished just over 2 lengths back in 4th, and that was behind Darnation. Darnation's come out and romped home at Doncaster, which makes the form look solid. I think 6 furlongs is more her trip than 7 furlongs, so dropping back to this trip on Saturday, I think the right move. And I thought 17-2, she was overpriced. I think, there's 8, 9 runners in the race. You're going to get 3 places. I thought she was an each way bet to run into a place at 17-2. So Pretty Crystal for Richard Fahey for me in the Group 3 at Ayr. The final event of the afternoon from Newbury on ITV Racing, we're going to cover on this week's pod, is the big race of the day in the UK with the Group 2 Dubai Duty Free Mill Reef Stakes. Last year won by Sakia in emphatic fashion. Can we see a similar performance this year, and a horse that's hopefully going to go and kick on and maybe look towards the sprinting events next season, or like Zakia went into the Guineas, but obviously it hasn't worked out since then. We've got Mr. Sketch at the top of the market, 3-1, bought by Wathnam Racing for Eve Johnson Horton. 7 questions for George Scott, 7-2. Array, 5-1 for Andrew Balding. Hartum, 11-2, the most experienced in the field. Red Zone Hero at 8, who bolted up last time out. Matters Most at 9, and 25-1 bigger the rest. Paul, I didn't think it was the greatest renewal in the world of the Mill Reef, when we've had some nice winners in the past. But who is the one in the field that could turn out to be the best of the lot?
I quite like Array to hopefully continue the good run of Andrew Balding and Oisin Murphy on Saturday afternoon. Array was slight concern, beaten favourite on 2 of his last 3 starts. Was it a good winner 2 starts ago at Newmarket back on the 19th of August? But I thought ran well enough at Kempton. Kempton probably didn't play to his strengths last time out. I thought it was a horse. Andrew Balding's runners, as I said before, he tends to bring them on so much at home and then leaves the race course then to bring them on another bit. And I thought on what was only his fourth start last time out, still showed signs of inexperience, was on and off the bridle, ran in snatches under Peter McDonald. And then as the turn for home was on the heels of the leader and looked to be travelling the best probably. And then when push came to shove, looked a little bit outpaced. I don't think Kempton played to his strengths. I think Newbury will see Array in better light here. Oisin Murphy back on board. Not that I don't think PJ did anything wrong, but I think we'll see Array in better light here, and I'll be happy to get involved. Beautiful looking son and no name ever. I'll be happy to get involved at 5-1.
Yeah, Array, a horse I've liked as well this season, but I have jumped off him for this. I think he's got a really good chance, and I think he's fairly priced at 5s. I thought Mr. Sketch could just turn out to be the best of all these, and I think it's got a bit of a star factor about him. Like I mentioned, he was bought by Wattenham Racing, and they've bought some really nice horses, haven't they? Wattenham Racing, like Sir Gregory, Isaac Shelby, that have ran really well this year, and this is his first run for Connections. Seen just twice today. He made a really encouraging debut over 6 furlongs, when only a next second over course and distance. That was on good to soft ground. Next time out at Salisbury, on quicker ground, he'd obviously improved a massive amount because he bolted up by 9.5 lengths. Like, couldn't have won it any easier. Look, we don't know how good that field is really, but still, the way he went away visually, I thought was very, very impressive. This is a different ball game. I don't think it's the strongest race in the world, but 7 questions array. Hartum's proved it at Group 2 level. Red Zone Hero bolted up last time. It's a much better race. He's got to improve again. But I just thought he was so stylish, and having handled good to soft. Yes, this is going to be softer. But if you look at his pedigree, he's out of his sire's territories, who ran a lot on very, very soft ground and handled it very well. So I'm taking the opinion that he'll handle the softer conditions, maybe better than most, and just being bought by Wattenham Racing. And obviously we don't know. Nice to see Eve Johnson Horton have one at the top of the market as well in a race like this. But Mr. Sketch, I just thought visually could be the best of the lot here. But I think it's tight between a lot of them, because 7 questions array and Hartum are all decent horses probably at this level. Right, we're going to finish this week's pod with the big one from Ayr. It's the Ayr Gold Cup at 3:35 over 6 furlongs. A lot of familiar face in here, Paul, that we've talked about for the last few years. But at the top of the market is a Razio 8-1. Summergan, the old boy. I absolutely love this horse at 10-1. Juan Lapan in here at 10-1. Elise Dancer at 10-1, significantly 10-1. Rohan 11s, Bielsa 14s, Mr. Wagyu in here as well at 14s, Albashir 16s, and 16-1 bigger the rest. Plenty of familiar faces. 25 runners going to post. Who are you going for, or who's a few horses that you think could run well?
Yeah, best of luck if you're getting involved here. This is minefield, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've gone with 2. I've gone with Ramazan, 3-year-old in the fields, mentally tough, has competed in a couple of big field events. Ran in the Britannia back in June, and then another big field handicap at Ascot back in July. Won a decent handicap at Chepstow last time out. That again was in the Racing League. 3-year-olds wouldn't have the best record in the race recently. They did when it was first ran. They did have a decent record in the first number of run-ins of the Ayr Gold Cup, but in recent years wouldn't have a great record. The last 3-year-old won it back in 2019. That was Angel Alexander at 16-1. So Ramazan is my first selection, and the next one, I have to give a mention to the Scottish train, the Katie Scott train, Guidor, who is the model of consistency, rarely runs a bad race, would need to be pretty sharp here off a handicap mark of 99, has a claimer on board. But like I said, rarely runs a bad race. Was last seen finishing 7-12 at Doncaster on the 15th of September. Was only beaten a little over 5 lengths by the winner. Failed to beat a rival home prior to that at Thirsk back on the 1st of September, but was a good winner at Newmarket 3 starts ago. And I think if Guido generally does run with his heart on his sleeve, it's best priced at 33-1. There are 7 places involved. Some firms are going 25s if you are taking those 7 places. But I think as a fun bet here, I think Guido will give you a great run for your money. So that's Ramazan, first selection, and Guido each way.
Yeah, it's so tough in it, this race. But it's fun to me because it's like a massive problem solving mission. You've got to try and you've got to try and solve these problems here because there's so many horses that run against each other and they could run against each other all year like they do, and they all beat each other. It's who's best handicapped, it's who's better on the day, who's better drawn. There's so much to look at. Um, Everyone knows watching this pod how much I love Summergand, and I've jumped off him the last few times, and he's ran really, really well. But I've jumped off him again because 107 is a seriously high mark for a 9-year-old. But he keeps performing, and I hope he does run well. Elise Dancer is one I'm really interested in, but I'm not going to put him up just because I think he needs bottomless ground. And I think he's probably going to get good to soft. So even though he's going to get soft in the description, I don't know how soft it's going to be. I do think Elise Dancer will run well. I think he's handicapped really well. So I think there's another one that will run well. But the two that I landed on, and one is an old boy that we've talked about, and he's a bit of a favourite. He's at the widest stall at all, Rohan. I think he's going to bounce back here. And I think he's going to bounce back in a big way because it's been a common theme this year. If you look at some of the horses and you look at horses like Equilateral and Anarth last week, group horses dropping into a handicap, just performing really, really well. And I think Rohan now off a mark 104 can do that. He had a peak rating of 116. Look, he hasn't quite been the same horse this season. Stall 25 is not ideal, but horses have won from that stall before. So I think with the way Rohan races being dropped in, it won't be too much of a problem. But he's had a phenomenal career for his connections. He had a rating of a 55 and he won off a mark of 55 and went up to like a mark of 116 winning races. He's won back-to-back renewals of the Wokingham handicap at Royal Ascot in 2021 and 22. Also took races like the Group 2 Sandy Lane Stakes and the Group 3 Pavilion Stakes. He was on the decline last year, but bounced back to a bit of form at the end of last term. Third in the Group 1 Sprint Cup at Haydock behind Minzal. Got back to winning ways in the Group 3 Benkoff Stakes ahead of Summergand. And finished the season with a good 4th of 18 behind Kinross in the Group 1 Champion Sprint Stakes. This term, he's been well below his best. He's gone from a mark 113 to 104, with his best run coming 2 starts ago in the Racing League, actually, at Newcastle when dropped to 5 furlongs. I don't think Safi Osborne gave him the best ride in the world, even though she was riding out of skin at the Racing League throughout the weeks. But I thought she held him back like normally, but held him too far back, and he was just left with so much to do. He finished 6th in the end, absolutely flew home, and I think he was just over 3 lengths behind the winner that day. But he made up a lot of good ground just to let me know that basically the fire still does burn in the belly. He wasn't so good last time, but dropping back into this handicap off a mark of 104, I'm going to give him one last chance, Rohan. So at 11 to 1, I thought he had each way claims. And a bigger price was 40 to 1 when I looked at it yesterday. Now I look at 25 to 1 best price. And Kevin he's chucked a load into this race. And Magical Spirit at 25 to 1, I thought could run well for Tom Eves. He's just got really good form at air. And it's down to a mark of 95. I thought with 7 places on offer, could just nick one of those 7 places out of stall 18. A winner at this meeting in 2020 in the Air Silver Cup off a mark of 88. Season later, he looked to land back the renewals of the race, when 4th of 24 off a higher mark of 94. He rounded out 2021 with a good win at Doncaster over 6 furlongs on soft ground and a good second over the same course and distance in the listed Wentworth Stakes, but he couldn't follow that up at all during 2022. This term, he's needed his first run at Doncaster, but then went to Redcar and was a better 4th on soft ground again, not finishing far beyond the winner that day, off today's mark. He'd been dropped £1 to a mark of 94. He got back to winning ways at Doncaster on soft ground again. Soft ground seems to be the key with this horse. He then went to York in May and ran a cracker off £3 higher to finish a narrow 3rd to Bielsa in a competitive 21 runner handicap. Bielsa runs in this as well. Below par 2 starts ago, went on the all-weather. I just thought all-weather probably isn't his bag. He was last seen at York off a mark of 96 and finished a fair 6th behind the likes of Abraham Regal, Manila Scouse, Summergand, who have all won since. He's been dropped £1 back to a mark of 95. And I just thought he could nick a place off this handicap mark. This is what I was looking through. He meets top-weighted Summergand here on absolutely much better terms, having been receiving only £1 off him that day at the last meeting when they last met at York. And he only finished 2.25 lengths behind him. He now receives almost a stone. He was only receiving £1. And you've got Magical Spirit at 25s and some again near the top of the market at what, 10s? I didn't think the prices correlated with how the handicap marks are worked out here. So from a place perspective, with all the extra places on offer, I thought Magical Spirit could run well. But my main selection will be Rohan. Just watch out for Elise Dancer if any rain falls. Paul,
there's plenty of friends of the pod running in it, James. As you mentioned, Summer Gandhi got Bielsa, Mr. Wagyu. I'd be a little bit peed off if maybe Lethal Levi manages to come back to life. First time advisory, best price 33-1. You know, there's plenty of familiar names, and even looking at the field, you could change your mind or what have you 10 times over. So stick a pin in it.
Yeah, that's why I think we've discussed about 7 horses there, and we still might not have the winner. But I think you've got to in races like that because you can make so many cases for all different horses. Anyway, that's all the big races covered from Ayr and Newbury on Saturday on ITV. All we need now is our naps, Paul, for the weekend. Like I mentioned, last time you were on the pod 2 weeks ago, Al Sakib went in at a nice price for you. Can you make it 2 out of 2 on this week's pod?
Right, my nap is running in the 240. Nap this weekend, 240 Newbury. We're on the same selection here, James. I hope you weren't going to go for Totnes. I think Totnes will take the beating in that 240 contest. Can't go. We got the first you mentioned Ayr is kind of difficult to work out. Another place that you kind of love to hate, but you love it all the same is Dundalk. It's sometimes impossible to work out, but every Friday you keep going back, and great fun, great place to go for a night out if you're ever in the northeast. 8 races to look forward to from 4:50 racing right through until 8:30. 2 selections for Dundalk tonight. First one runs in the 5:25. I'm with the informed Natalia Lapini yard with Nikki Swango. 5th one last seen. A good second 2 starts back. Currently best price at 5-2. And in the lucky last 8:30, it's a competitive Division 2 of the extended mile and 2 handicap. I am with the Johnny Levins trained Raman. Johnny Levins does well here. Jamie Powell, good £5 claimer on board. Raman, nicely drawn a stall 5. 5th one last seen. 3rd on his couple of starts before that. Raman is best priced at 7-2. So nap for the weekend. Totnes in the 240 at Newbury. 2 for Dundalk on Friday night. 5:25 Nicky Swango and 8:30 Raman.
Well, we have missed Dundalk Fridays, haven't we? We have.
Haven't we?
Yeah, we massively have. We massively have. I've seen people in the comments, to be fair, on YouTube saying, "Oh, can't wait for Dundalk to come back for full selection." So yeah, thanks for that.
All this Cheltenham talk, James. It's over it.
My nap this weekend is going to be. Do you know what? Because I was going to go My Prospero, and I thought Raw Rhyme could run My Prospero very close in the Doonside Cup. I don't think the race is very good at all. So I think Raw Rhyme at 7-4 in the Doonside Cup, 150 at Ayr, is going to be my nap this week for Carl Burke, the informed Carl Burke, who can't stop having winners in September, and Clifford Lee. Paul, thanks as always for your selections. Nice to see you back to full strength after being on the sick table last week. Some nice action on Saturday from Ayr and Newbury we've got stuck into there. Please be sure to like this video, comment your selections or nap below, or any comments you've got, any Dundalk tips you've got, get them in the comments below. We want to see what you're going for. And make sure you are subscribed to the Winners Enclosure channel so you're notified when our shows go live. All the best, whatever you are back in this weekend, and thanks for watching.